Hello friends, Sharon from Mad Paper Crush here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would make a little bit of journal jewelry or book jewelry from the items that I received from Beebeecraft. So I'm going to be using some of these jewelry findings that I have to make some different items that can go in a journal. So I think this will be really fun. I came up with some ideas and I thought they would be fun for us to do together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is something very simple and traditional. I mean, this almost looks like jewelry, to make little beaded dangles with these little bead caps on them. So I'm going to show you how to make just a single one if you wanted to attach it with ribbon or a jump ring or something onto a tab of your journal. And then we'll also make one that's removable and a double link with one of these little fishhook clasps there. So we'll do that. And then I also thought we could make this, the trim that I got, which I am totally in love with, and I think it looks so beautiful for fall. I thought I would take some of that and make a little book closure. So let me just grab my journal here and kind of show you what it does. So I just very simply made this little closure. So if you have those big alligator mouth journals, you could put this closure on there to keep it together. So I think that's a really fun idea, using some of these pieces. And then the last thing, which is maybe the first thing that we'll make, is this little fall tassel. So I used some ribbon that I have of my own, which I'll show you when we get there. But I love that this looks like a little spider web or something like that for the fall. And for this one right now, I just added it to a paper clip that I was putting onto the end of my journal, which of course it slid off just now. But you could, sew this on. You could, put it on with a brad or something like that. I just kind of wanted to see how it would look first before I did anything with it. So I'm just kind of sliding it onto this paper clip that matches the color of my tassel there and seeing how it looks. And I really kind of love the way it looks. So let's go ahead and get started making some of these fun things. Okay, to make this simple little tassel, I grabbed some of this ribbon yarn that I had in my stash, and it's very light, but it's flat, which I think gives it, a nice look here, a nice full look when you're done. So that's what I'm going to be using. You could use other kinds of ribbons. You could use, strings. The only thing is, for this piece, this little chandelier piece that I have, these holes are pretty small, so it's tough to get things through there if they're thick. So like, I even tried to put 2 strands through one of these little holes and I couldn't do it. So I wanted something that was, full enough to kind of hold its own, but obviously small enough to fit, inside of these little holes. So that's my only sort of warning with these things. And this is traditionally used to make like earrings or pendants. So for jewelry, so you would, hang different things off of here if you wanted, to do that. So let's go ahead and show you the magical tool that I'm using to make this chandelier, or to make this tassel. So I'm using a little embroidery, like a needle flosser. So it has a little bit of a very light wire on the end, and this goes through these holes and allows me to pull things through it. So I'll show you what I mean. So when I was doing this, all I'm going to do very simply is put my needle threader through one of the holes and then put my ribbon through that little metal piece there. And then I'm actually just going to make it so there's only a little end that I have to pull through. And then I'm just going to pull that through until I get the other end out. And then I'll just kind of even it out here. Now, if you want to, the only other thing that I do, and maybe we'll do that right away, is I tied knots in it, because obviously I didn't want it to, come apart. So you can just tie a little knot in there and then just kind of shimmy it around so you have it where you want it. And I'm just going to do that same thing to all the rest of these on the bottom here. Okay. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I started with about 10, a little over 10-inch strands so that I would have about 5 inches of tassel. So however long you think you want your ends to be, just double that, and that's, what you should start with. And I only had 5 here. Now, I wanted to try something to see if this will work, because I told you I couldn't get 2 through at a time. But I was going to see if maybe I can get 1 and 1 together. So let me just try that. So I'm cutting another 10-inch piece, and I'm going back through one of the holes where I already have the ribbon through. So I'm going to see if I can get this through, which I can. That's good. Good start. And then I'm just going to put this through a little bit and see if... Ooh! I didn't think I'd be able to do it. Oh, look at that. So now I have 2 ribbons in one hole. Wow. So now I think I'm going to go back through all of the holes and add 1 more ribbon, because I think this will add a whole lot of fullness that I think will really add to the tassel. So I'm going to go ahead and go back through them all and add another ribbon, and we'll see how nice and full it looks when I get back. So just the same thing that we did before, just using the tool again wherever you can kind of sneak it in on that little hole there. So I'm going to cut some more ribbon and we'll add some more in there. Okay, I added 1 more ribbon on each hole, and I think I like it so much better. It's a lot fuller, and things are kind of jumping all over the place. I really love that. So the next thing I would do is probably just go in and check my ends and see if there's any that I want to, either straighten up or crooked out. So like this one is straight. So I think I'm just going to come in here and give it a little cornered edge. I don't know what you call that. This one's not that pretty. And this one's straight across too. So I'm just kind of coming in here and making sure my ends look the way that I want them to. Now you could go into here and add even more stuff if you wanted to. You could probably even pull some ribbon, through some of these holes, which might be kind of fun as well. But I like the look of it because, like I said, it looks kind of like a spider web, and I think that's perfect for fall. I like to try to leave spider webs on my porch in the fall, just because I think they're fun looking. And then what I'm going to do for this one is I'm just going to put it on a bulb pin. So I have these bronze bulb pins that I can use to, even pin through a paper on in one of my journals. I could put it on top of a tag. I think that would be really fun. I don't even think I have a tag here that we can look at. Let me go grab one. Okay, I didn't make this tag to go with this, but I wanted you to get an idea. So if you had, a tag, you could just take this bulb pin and kind of put it through whatever topper you have on there, and you would have this nice tassel. Oops, if I can get it closed again. Let's see. There we go. You would have a nice tassel to be able to hang off of a tag. So I think that's really fun too. And then once again, you could, cut these down smaller if you wanted to, but I love them. I think that is really cool. All right, let's try something else. Okay, let's talk about using some trim to make a journal closure. So for what I did for the first end is I just cut it off, folded it over to make a nice edge, and gave it a little stitch. So it's just folded over and stitched on the one side so that it has a nice, a nice even edge on here. And then I took my jewelry finding, so these chandelier things again, and I just used my Beacon 3-in-1 glue and glued it halfway up and around all of the little holes. So these are actually, it looks like they are two-sided, so this has some marks. I don't know if you can see them on this side, but when I flip it over, there isn't any. So this is the back side, I would think. So I just glued, right at the halfway mark, And then I tried to hit every piece of metal all the way down, including all of these little holes here. So once I had the glue on there, then I just placed it onto my fabric and centered it, and then made sure it was, you know, really good and dry. Then I also added a little jump ring and one of our fish hook clasps onto the top for one of the sides of the journal. So now I have this piece that I think is close to what it's going to be to fit around this journal. So I'll show you how I do the second side. So once I have it kind of where I want it, you can see, oops, I know that when the two clasps are together, so if I look at this already hooked up but not glued onto anything, I can kind of get an idea of where, you know, I want my, where to cut my fabric off to sew the next piece. So this is what it's looking like right now. And if this is pulled tight here, you can see that if I have it at the top, if I fold it down another, you know, almost half of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, I'll get to be at almost halfway there. So I'm going to go ahead and fold that over and sew it, and then we'll come back and we'll glue this piece on and we'll finish this up. Okay, my edge is all sewn up there. So now I'm going to glue this on, and I'll show you how I do that. So I'm grabbing my 3-in-1 glue, and I'm making sure I am gluing on the back side, and I'm just going to go, like I said, halfway up here, and I'm just going to make sure there's some glue on here. This stuff dries pretty clear, so I'm not too worried about getting too much. I mean, you want to be careful, but... And then I'm just going to try to center this where I want it and make sure it's even. And I think that looks pretty good. That's the other thing about that glue. This glue gives you a little bit of time, which I like. So it looks like I'm about 1.5 and 1.5 over here. So that's perfect for a 3-inch or 2.5 inch trim. Okay, so let's go ahead and let this dry. All right, while that's drying, let's go ahead and make some dangles. So I love these. I think these are so much fun when I see them in journals. I should probably start using more of them myself. So I used to make a lot of jewelry, so I'm familiar with these techniques. So let's make one. I'll show you how I do it. So let me just tell you about some of the things that we're going to need to do that, just so you're aware of that. So the bead caps that I'm going to be using, they aren't necessary for dangles, but they do add a lot of design, you know, elements and texture and things like that. And these are the ones I got from Beebeecraft. I love that there are so many different designs in here that can be used for a lot of things, and even different sizes. So you could use different size beads and things if you wanted to as well. I'm going to be using these beads that I got from Beebeecraft. And then also for our double clasp, I am going to be using another one of these little fish hook things. Now from my own stash, I'm going to be using eye hooks. So, or eye pins, I should say. So it's just a long metal piece with a loop at the end. And then I'm also going to be using some of these head pins that have a ball at the end. So I don't know if they're called like ball head pins. I don't know what they're called, but they have a little ball at the ends, and the same thing, just a long piece of metal going out. And I think these are all about 2 inches long. So there are different sizes out there, depending on how many things you want to put on it. You know, you might need a longer one or a shorter one. And then also from my stash, I'm using a bag of head pins that I might need to put things together. So then other tools that I'm going to be using, I'm going to be using my round nose pliers. So these are smooth and round to give us our loops on the ends. I'm using, I think these are called chain nose pliers, but they're also, they don't have any texture on the inside. They're flat on the inside. So I use these a lot to hold things. And then I'm also going to be using just sort of a regular small pliers. And this one does have some ridges on the inside, which if you're not careful can mark the metal. So you just want to be careful of that. And then the other thing I'm going to be using, which you won't see but is very needed are my little cheater glasses. So these will help me see, because I've realized my eyes are not as good as they used to be when I used to make jewelry. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, first let's just make a simple one piece dangle, I guess we can call it. So for this, I'm going to be using the ball pin here. So my little head pin with the ball on the end. I'm going to be using one of those. I'm going to be using one bead, so you can choose, whatever bead you want. Pick a fun color here. Maybe I'll do this really pink one that is in there. I'll use that one. And then I'm going to choose two head pins, or two bead caps, which is what these are. So I want to choose ones that are matching. This is a personal preference. You could do different ones if you wanted to, depending, on what you want your look, how you want your look to be. So I'm just going to kind of look around. Actually, I think I might use these guys. These are fun. So these are little flower-like pins. Now I am concerned, I have to just be sure that the hole in this bead cap doesn't go over the hole of my ball. So this is good. It's not going to fall off the end. You sometimes have to watch that. If your bead caps have large holes, it might just go right off the end, which obviously you don't want to happen. So I'm going to put the bead cap on first onto my ball pin here, and you can kind of see I've put it with the right side down, the right side towards my ball of my pin there. And then I'm just going to add my bead, and then I'm going to add my second bead cap, but this time I'm going to have the right side facing up so that it's against my bead that way. So it looks pretty on that side, but then if it gets turned over, it's pretty on that side as well. Okay, so now we're going to create our loop. And now what I like to do is I like to start with my chain nose pliers. And I'm going to be doing a wrapped loop. So that is more than just like the head pin would be. Let me just grab this out. So sometimes you can just make a loop at the top with one, sort of spin of your round nose pliers, and you can, stop it at that if you want to. But I like to do something that's a little bit more secure. It does make it so that you would have to add something else onto this if you wanted to connect it, but we could do that. So I'll show you what I mean. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to hold on to the top of my pin here, and I'm going to put my chain nose pliers all the way at the bottom, as close as I can to that top bead cap, pulling everything together. So everything's nice and tight here together. Nothing is wiggling around or anything. And then I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to bend the top of that over the chain nose pliers so it makes a little bit of a bend in here. So you can see I have just like a little 45-degree angle right there. And then I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to put them right at that little bend that I had, like that. And I'm going to decide, so it's it goes from fat to thin here, tapers. That's the word I was trying to think of. So I'm going to decide where I want to put my loop on this, depending on how big I want my loop. So I'm just going to maybe put it like, I don't know, let's see, maybe a quarter of a way up. And what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing right at that bend between my two pliers here. And then I'm just going to take this and wrap it around until it hits kind of the bottom of the bead there, where I can't kind of go any further. So now I have a start of a loop there. And then I'm going to pull the big piece that's on the end here up and around, whoops, until it is over top of that bead cap. And sometimes if it doesn't pull all the way, and see, I didn't put my glasses on, so I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, and sometimes if it doesn't pull all the way, you can use your other pliers to to help get you there, to pull it nice and tight. Okay, so that's all I've done. And so now we have this little loop that is crossed over here. Okay, now if I was going to add anything to this, this is where I would do it. So for instance, if we wanted to add one of our fish hooks onto here, we could do that now before we end up wrapping the whole thing. So these fish hooks have a closure on the bottom. I'm sorry, a little loop on the bottom. And so I'm just going to thread this on to here. And I'm going to thread it on so that it's all the way in the loop. So you can hopefully see that. Probably not because my hand is right there. But I have the loop and then I have my little fish hook on there as well. So now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers again and just kind of hold this loop in place. Hopefully. I want to try not to grab too much there. And then I'm going to use these other ones, and from the very tip of that pin, I'm going to start wrapping it around that little bend that we had in the beginning. And you kind of have to maneuver your pliers around, kind of have to hold and turn and then move things around to get them where you want. And if your loop is a little lopsided like mine is now, I'm just going to straighten that up without hopefully breaking a nail. Okay, and then you just keep going until you have it wrapped enough times around to make you feel comfortable. Now you can keep going and wrap this whole thing in if you want to, or you can just cut it off here. So I'm going to grab my one more pliers here. Sometimes I don't use these, but in this case I'm going to. Normally I would just wrap to the very end, but I just kind of want to show you what I mean if you cut this off. So I'm just going to cut as close as I can, making sure your eyes are protected here. You don't want metal flying all over the place. And then I'm going to make sure, I'm just going to try to pinch this little end in so that it doesn't, so it's not sticking out and catching on things. And so now we have this cute little dangle here that we can put on something. So you could put it on, I don't know, could attach another one to it. Could have lots of things going on here. But you could also have just put a jump ring on here. You could also, if you have one like this, you could use a ribbon to attach it. You could use a brad to attach this to your journal. You know, it just depends on what you want to do. So now let's make a double loop one using a couple more pins here. So it's going to be the same process, but we're going to use a couple more things. So we're going to use one eye pin, or that we have there, and then I'm going to use another head pin, one for the top and one for the bottom, and then we can actually attach something right to this loop if we want to. So I can put on one of these as a starting point for me by just opening up this little loop here, putting my fish hook on. It's not a fish hook, a little clasp there, lobster claw clasp. I hope everybody was yelling at me that I was calling it the wrong thing. I knew it was something related to the sea. It's the lobster claw clasp. Okay, so now this is going to be the top of our loop. And actually, I think what I'm going to do, instead of, well, let's see. I'm going to grab another bead. And let's see. Those look like they match a little bit. Whoops. That one wants to roll around. Okay, and then I'm going to pick some more head pins again. Let's see what I want to do here. How about these little guys? I think these are cute. I don't want to do like, this had a bunch of different sizes in it. So you can see, like, if I tried to use this bead cap, oh my goodness, it would be too big for this bead. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's really too big. You would, I put two on there, you wouldn't even be able to see the bead on there probably. So I'm going to start with these little guys because I know they'll fit and they will allow enough of my bead to show because these beads are really pretty. So I'm going to put those two on. And then we're going to kind of do the same thing to get started here. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to make a bend in this. Let's see. I can do that right. And then I'm going to start turning it again, but this time, is this not sitting right? Feels like it's not enough space, but let's see. This time I'm just going to drop it. This does not want to work for me for some reason. Okay. And I'm just going to pull this around so we have that loop started, but I'm going to just leave it there like that until I have the other head pin created, because then I can put them together. So I can choose either the same head pins that I had before, or I can choose something different. And let me see, these are kind of interesting. These are kind of tall. Let's see if they would work or how they would look. I don't know if I'm going to like these. Let's see. Ooh, actually, that's kind of fun. Makes it look, at first it was kind of wobbly and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but it kind of makes this look like a much longer bead. So you can see how short this one is with those two flat end caps on there, bead caps on there. And then this one is nice and long because of those bead caps on there. So we're going to do that one. So now this one, I'm just going to make just like we had done the single one before. So I'm going to create a little bend. And I'm going to make myself a loop. And this one, I'm not going to attach anything to it because we're going to attach this to the other piece. So I'm just going to finish this one off by wrapping it around here. And I always just try to grab just the very end of the wire, because sometimes it will break off and you don't want it to break off too short for you to finish doing your wrapping or anything. So let's see. Well, glasses. All right, let's see. I got this wrapped around a couple times and that's good. I think I'm just going to try to cut this one off again as well. But it is already a little bit close to my bead cap. All right, I'm going to try to just open this up a little bit. There we go. Now I can cut it. Once again, protect your eyes. And then with the end that might be sticking out here. Actually, I'm going to hold it with this one. It's like I told you before. This one doesn't have the marks on it. And hopefully this won't show too much. And then I'm just going to squeeze that in there to kind of finish that off. There. I like that. So now we can connect these two together. So this one doesn't have an opening now, but I can slide it on this one because I haven't finished it yet. And I might have to kind of work it around a little bit. And then I'm just going to pinch those two together. Put my glasses back on. All right, let's see if I can see where we're going to do this. And I'm just going to wrap this like twice, I think is all I'm going to need for this one. Yeah. And cutty cut. And then that one's sticking out pretty good, so we're just going to pinch that in a bit if I can. There we go. There. we have another double dangle. Aren't those fun? I love them. Oops. I think these would be really fun hanging off a journal, even, you know, on the end. Let's see if I can put them on here. And that's the other thing, is that you could, when we had our single one, we could start attaching beads to this if we wanted to. So, oops, I think I need to do it with the other hand. There we go. Yes. So we could create even more, and you wouldn't even need to put the clasp on there if you didn't want to. You could attach these just right to here and have a fun little dangle off of this thing. So I think that would be fun too. All right, I think our little book belt is dry now. These little findings on here, I love the way they look, the detail that they add to that. And I mean, this trim is just gorgeous by itself. I can't stop talking about it. I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how I would put this on if it was just like this. You know, on a book, you could just put it around a book like this, and now it doesn't, you know, stretch or anything, so you might have to pull it. But you could also, like, if you see this, you can see it kind of moves around here. So I'm not sure I would do this without maybe attaching this to the back or something like that, or even to the spine, so that you'd have something, you know, keeping it onto the book, so that when you opened it, you know, it would stay together. You could still open your book here, but then you could, you know, clasp it up, because I don't know, I mean, some people might not care about that, you know, as they carry it around or whatever, but it could be loose before you start adding some things into your journal, and you wouldn't want it to slide off. But I do really like the way this looks on the book here. I think it adds quite a bit of nice detail to that. And there you have it, friends, a little bling for your books. So I hope you had fun making this journal jewelry with me, journal belts and journal jewelry. I really had fun making all of these things as well. If you're interested in the items that I was using from Beebeecrafts, I will link them down below so that you can check them out. Thanks so much for watching, friends. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.